Hi students, very good evening. Welcome to Pariksha Idea. Students, we were in the previous class, we were discussing about the basic framework of the Indian Constitution. In that basic framework, we have dealt about the parts of the Indian Constitution. We have discussed the parts in details. I have said you that that Indian Constitution Indian Constitution is one of the lengthiest constitution in the world because Indian Constitution has been divided into parts, 22 parts plus 3 more. I have discussed the parts in details, all the 22 parts with their subparts. I have discussed all. I have tried to give you the bird view of the parts with the articles. That is important to understand the Indian Constitution. The second point of the Indian, why it is a bulky constitution, is it has schedule. And we have originally, I said you earlier, originally in the Indian Constitution there are 8 schedules, but now after the constitutional amendment, we have given constitutional status to Panchayati Raj, to the urban municipalities. So, and we have certain anti-defection law also. So our constitution now has 12 schedules. At the same time, we have 105 constitutional amendment. We have the articles, 395 articles originally, but now we have more than 450 articles after various constitutional amendments. I have discussed detail in the parts of the constitution in the previous class. Today, what I will do is I will be taking the schedules of the Indian Constitution. I will try to make you understand the details of the schedule so that you will be able to know the Constitution in better manner. What is schedule? What is schedule? That is given in Indian Constitution. Schedule is basically a class of subjects, class of similar subjects clubbed in a particular group. So you will find actually we have the bulkiest constitution, and we don't want to make it more bulky. That's the reason, by this process, by putting the similar subjects and clubbing them in a particular group, we make schedules so that it does not look much bulky. So we will see the different schedules of the Indian Constitution. Schedule. Today I will take some of the questions also that are being asked in civil services examination, various provincial services examination related to the part of the Indian Constitution, so that you will be able to understand the importance of the part also, and you will evaluate yourself also through your understanding and preparation of the parts in the schedule, because I'm trying to make you through this particular session of this basic framework of the constitution. I'm trying to make you very clear about the details of the basics of the constitution. Schedule 1, we have 12 schedule, as I said it earlier. And the main thing is, if you want to study the constitution or any subject, try to keep the textbook with yourself. In India, for the Indian constitution, you have to keep the barrack also, barracks containing all the articles and the details of the constitution. In schedule 1, schedule 1 schedule 1 talks about, in detail, it talks about the union and its territory. And it also gives the territorial limit also. Territorial limits of union. Union means includes states. As you know, we have 28 states, and now we have 8 UTs. UTs. The names of the states, it talks about, schedule talk about the names of the states. The latest entry in the list of the states is Telangana, Ghana. That has been made in 2014. And after the state reorganization, Jammu Kashmir State Reorganization Act, Jammu and Kashmir State Reorganization Act 2019, and the abolishment of Article 370, that gives special status to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, through the abolition of Jammu and Kashmir State Reorganization Act, we have made Jammu Kashmir, we divided Jammu and Kashmir into two parts, Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. Now, Ladakh and Jammu Kashmir is a union territory. We have 8 union territories. Previously, Dadar and Nagar Haveli, Dadar and Nagar Haveli, and Daman Diu were two different UTs, two UTs. But now they have been clubbed into one UTs, one UT. They become one UT. So the number of UTs at present is 8. We have 8 UTs. So schedule 1 talks about the union name of the states and the UTs, territorial jurisdiction of the states. We have 28 and 8 UTs, states. And the articles which you have to refer for schedule 1 is Article 1 and Article 4. This schedule talks about the union and the states and the territorial limit of the union territories. This is all about the schedule 1. The same way, the schedule 2 of Indian Constitution. Understanding of the schedules, the parts, is very important to understand the Indian Constitution. Schedule 2 talks about, it deals about the provisions related to the emoluments, the allowances, privileges, of whom? Those who are holding constitutional posts. Constitutional posts. Schedule 2 talks about the provisions related to the emoluments, the allowances and privilege for those who are holding constitutional posts. And if you will see the schedule, the privileges, it talks about the privileges for whom? Privileges for the President of India, Governor of States, Speaker, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Lok Sabha, Chairman, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. In the same way, in the same manner, Speaker, Deputy Speaker of Legislative Assembly, Chairman, Deputy Chairman of Legislative Council of the state. It talks about in detail about the Supreme Court and the High Court judges, plus Comptroller and Auditor Generals. In detail, Schedule 2 of the Indian Constitution in detail talks about these people who are holding the constitutional post, regarding them, the emoluments, allowances, and the privileges. Schedule 2. Schedule 3. When you look into Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution talks about the forms of oath and affirmation. Forms of oath and affirmation. The different types of oath taken by, swear by the those people are holding the constitutional posts. And in this very Schedule 3 of the Indian Constitution, whosoever is coming, like the Union Minister of India, it talks about the Union Minister of India. Those people who are the candidates for the election of the parliament, candidates for the election of the parliament. Then we have the oath and affirmation for the Supreme Court judges. It also talks about oath and affirmation of the High Court judges. And it talks about the state ministers. Also. Now, one thing you can discern from this schedule is President is out of this frame. For the President's oath and affirmation, we can refer to Article 60 of the Indian Constitution. Where it is specifically laid down the oath and affirmation for the President of India. Here, when you see, there is a quite very large difference between the oath of the Supreme Court judges and the President of India. When you will look into the oath of the President of India, it talks about to protect, preserve, preserve and defend the Constitution. Protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution of India. So President has the responsibility to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution of India and the laws. Where in contrast to this, the Supreme Court judges, they took the oath to uphold the Constitution and the law of the land. So Supreme Court has given the power, the right, or this Supreme Court has the responsibility to uphold the Constitution of the land, Constitution and the law of the land. So Supreme Court, in order to uphold the Constitution of the India, it has devised basic structure, and it has liberally given lot of weightage to the rights of the citizen. And you will see in Article 20, it is reflected in Article 21. Supreme Court has given a wide amplification to the Article 21, because Article 21 is has an organic growth. It is silent. A constitution is silent on this article. So to uphold the Constitution of the law of the land, Supreme Court has given lot of explanation to Article 21. At the same time, in the landmark judgment Keswarananda Bharti case, basic structure has been devised. So you see the difference between the president's oath and the oath which is taken by the Supreme Court judges. This you have to be very clear on these all, because they're asking the questions like president's oath comes under Article 60 of the Constitution, and president took the oath for what? To protect, to preserve, and defend the Constitution, whereas Supreme Court judges took the oath to uphold the Constitution of the India. This is a basic difference between president's oath and the Supreme Court judge's oath. I think you're clear on this. And then we will go to Schedule 4. Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution. At the same time, we have to read Schedule 4 with Schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. You have to link it, Indian Constitution. When you have the habit to link one part to another part, so meaning thereby is your view or your approach gets widened, your horizon has widened, and now you are able to comprehend things. Schedule 4 and Schedule 5. Schedule 4 talks about the scheduled areas and the tribal areas. The administration, related to the administration of the particular area. You can also link this schedule with both schedule with part, which part? You remember? Part 10 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the schedule areas and the tribal areas. I hope you remember this. You might have read provisions in relation provision schedule. Schedule 4. We have discussed schedule. This is related to schedule 4, whereas this all schedule areas and schedule tribal areas is related to the schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. Schedule 5 and schedule 4. Schedule 4 talks about the allocation of the seats. Allocation of the seats. So allocation of the seats for the state in states in Rajya Sabha. And this is one of the important elements for the federation, because India is a quasi-federal in nature. India is quasi-federal in nature. Very explained it. So schedule 4 talks about allocation of the seats for the states in the Rajya Sabha, and all the state and the UTs, basically particularly Puducherry and Delhi, they have their weightage in the Rajya Sabha, and this is one of the best example of the federation of the Indian Constitution, because we have given weightage to and the space to the state also. And even in the election of the president, the elected members of the legislative assemblies of Puducherry and Delhi, they participate in the election of the president also. So schedule 4 talks about it. I explained it. Schedule 5 talks about the schedule areas administration and tribal areas, and you link it with part 10 of the Indian Constitution talks about. So we give ample space to the tribal areas. They make the tribal councils. But here, states like Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram. For these 4 states, we have different schedule 6. And schedule 6 talks about the tribal council administration of Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. And rest schedule areas been administered through schedule 5 of the Indian Constitution. We have provisions for that. Schedule 5 and 6, then schedule 7. Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution talks about different lists. Different list means in schedule 7, the areas in which the parliament, the state can make laws. Like there is union list. First list is union list, and in second list we have state list. Third is concurrent list. Union list. In union list, the parliament has the sole right. Parliament has the sole right to legislate. In state list, Article 246 of Indian Constitution talks about these lists also. State list, state has the right. But in case 2-3 states want something, some subjects which are common to them and they want a national law, so Parliament has the right to make laws in the, laws which are the subjects are of which are into the state list. The third is the concurrent list. Concurrent list, both the union and the state has the right. Union and the state has the right to make law, make laws. Both can make laws. Take for an example, you'll understand through an example, like law and order is a state subject. But how to bring the culprits to the book, and for that very thing, union government has the right to make law also. You see, CRPC is there. Criminal Procedure Code. Criminal Procedure Code talks about the procedure which are to be followed to bring party to the court, and if they what is the procedure to make somebody accountable to this to some crime. We have the principle of natural justice, then rule of law is there, and audi alterum partem. Meaning thereby is we give opportunity to the other party also. Mere putting allegation is not sufficient. You have to, through trial, you have to prove your statement, your allegation. If not proved, then the alleged activity, like if you allege someone for some act, if it is not proved, then he is not found guilty. So there is the process. Law and order is a state subject, but the procedure is a union government subjects. So in this subjects, in both the union and state has the right to make laws, and it is concurrent list talks about this only. In union list, we have 98 subjects, 98 entries. Previously, it was 97. Previously, it was 97. In the state list, we have earlier 66 entries. 66 subjects on which the state has the right to make laws. But now we have 59 subjects on which state can make law. Now, state list has been reduced from 66 to 59. And the union list subject has been increased from 97 to 98. This is one increase, and it has decreased. The same way, in concurrent list, we have now, previously we have 47 subjects. 47 subjects. But now we have 52 subjects. Meaning thereby is the cooperation between the state and the union has increased, and it's get reflected in the subjects which are put into the concurrent list. Previously it was 47 subjects, now it has increased to 52 subjects, where the both union and the state has the right to make laws. The point is, if some law is made and the union and the state, they made a laws on the same subjects, so which law will prevail? In that very situation, with some reservations, Parliament's law, the law made by the Parliament, will prevail. This Schedule 7 talks about this in detail. And Article 42, 46, you link it with link it with Article 246. So the point is, when you read Schedule 7, you go and refer Article 246 also, so that you will have a broader view of the things, and that will make you more comfortable to understand the subjects also. Schedule 7. Now we have Schedule 8. Schedule 8. Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution talks about the official languages we have. The official languages. Schedule 8 talks about the official languages. We have 22 official language. It talks about official languages. We have 22 official languages. In 2003 through 92nd Constitutional Amendment Act, in 2003, 3 new languages, that is Tamil, Telugu and Urdu, 3 languages. Tamil, Telugu, Urdu has been given a status of official language. So Schedule 8 talks about official language. And if you link it through two articles that has to be referred to understand this is 344 and 351. 344 talks about the president's role to constitute committee and commissions regarding the official languages. At the same time, 351 talks about the directives for the development of Hindi language. Directives for the development of Hindi language. So Schedule 8 talks about official language. We have 22 official languages at present through 92nd Constitutional Amendment Act 2003, which comes into effect in 2004. We have incorporated 3 more official languages, that is Tamil, Telugu and Urdu in Schedule 8. You link it with Article 344, where President has the right to make, commission and constitute committees on official language. 351 talks about the directives for the development of Hindi language. Schedule 8. Now we have 3 more. Schedule 9. Schedule 9 of the Indian Constitution. Very important schedule. Actually, this schedule has been brought by the first Constitutional Amendment Act in 1951 through Article 31B. This is a very important schedule. First Constitutional Amendment, 31B. You have to remember. Why this schedule has been brought into the Indian Constitution is because, we have we have to abolish the landholders. We have to abolish the landholders' occupation of the land. To abolish this to abolish the laws of the land related to the land and to have a land reform and to distribute the lands to the marginalized farmers by passing land ceiling act. What we have done, we have passed land ceiling act, and to make land reform we brought schedule 9 in our Indian constitution, and we passed 31B. Article 31B has been brought to the fore, and it has been done by first Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. And but there was a tendency, why it was brought to save land reform laws enacted by to save land reform laws. It was brought to save what? Land reform laws. To save land reform laws brought by various states. Why? You remember that we have the fundamental right, and previously in fundamental right we have right to property. So if you have if you have a lot of property, so nobody will question you. But by bringing this schedule 9 and land reform into the fore, into the point, so right to property has been transferred from fundamental right to 300A. That is, it has become a constitutional right, and not a fundamental right. Now, to what happened? A very wrong tendency has occurred. Many of the state government, in order to save themselves from the annual scrutiny of the judiciary, they have incorporated many of the subjects which were not related to the land reforms, like mines, industrial relation, workers relation related to laws, into the schedule 9. Why? To save themselves from the scrutiny of the judiciary. So to check these malpractices, a famous landmark case came, and that was the IR Coelho case came. That is IR Coelho versus State of Tamil Nadu. This is a famous it was a landmark judgment. In this very case, in this very judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court said that any law placed in 9th schedule after 24th April 1973. You remember this date. This is very important date. On this very date, Kesava Bharati case, on this very date, this case, the judgment has been delivered on Kesava Bharati case, that is 24th April 1973. Honorable Supreme Court has said that any law placed in the 9th schedule after 24th April 1973 will be open to challenge. It will be challenged. Why? to check whether in the garb of this, the fundamental rights, whether the fundamentals in a fundamental right in the garb of this has been taken off or not, because in no way fundamental rights has been waived off by the individual, or state cannot take one's fundamental right. So to check the malpractices of the state, this is the deadline, this is the date, 24th April 1973. If any laws will be placed, if any matter, any laws which is made and has been put into the schedule 9 after 24 April 1973, that is after the passing of the Keswananda Bharati case, if it has been proved that it violates the fundamental rights of individual, that will be made unconstitutional. Schedule 9 is one of the important schedule of Indian Constitution. I think you are clear on this. Even one point is very important. When they are putting the laws they made into Schedule 9, they don't have any underlying principle. They don't follow any underlying principle. They don't follow any underlying principle, and they put anything into the 9th schedule arbitrarily. So now to check this order, 24th April 1973 has been made a cutoff date. So now judiciary can question and it can check the viability constitutionality of the particular laws that has been put into the Schedule 9 of the Indian Constitution. The same way we have the 10th schedule. 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution talks about the anti-defection law. Anti-defection law. And this has been, anti-defection law has been made by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985. If you have to read this 10th schedule, link it with Article 102 that talks about the disqualification of the members of the whether it be Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha on the basis of the defection, and Article 191 Clause 2 talks about the disqualification of the members of the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council on the pretext of the defection. So Article 102 and 191 Clause 2 has to be read with Schedule 10 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the anti-defection law that has been brought into the fore by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985. The same way we can see now 11th schedule and 12th schedule. 11th schedule and 12th schedule. 11th schedule and 12th schedule talks about the local self-government, and 11th schedule talks about panchayat. It talks about panchayat's power, authority, responsibility. and you can link it with Article 243G, which talks about the same thing, Panchayat's power, authority, and responsibility. In the same way, Schedule 12th of the Indian Constitution talks about urban local self-government, that is municipality. And municipality, the same thing, the power, the authority, the responsibility of the municipality. You know that art in 11th schedule, which talks about the panchayats, there is 29 subjects. They have the responsibility, they have the power and authority on 29 subjects, whereas in 12th schedule, which talks about the urban local self-government, it has it it includes 18 subjects. 243G talks about panchayats, power, authority, responsibility, and you have to link this with to a 12th schedule with Article 243W. If you will link this schedule with this particular article, you will be better. You will be in a better position to understand in details about the schedule as well as the articles. So we have, in totality, we have at present we have 12 schedules. Originally it was 8. Now we have 12 schedules. This is all about the schedules. I hope you understand from this from this session. You might have understood the schedules and the relevance of the schedules for the Indian Constitution. At the same time, what I will do today is I will try to take some of the questions which are being asked in the previous provincial services examination related to the part, so that what we have discussed in the previous class, you will be in a better position to understand the questions on from which area they are asking, and you will be able to evaluate yourself also. So we will took some of the questions that is being asked in. Let's see. Part of the Indian Constitution. I hope it's visible to you also. You see, we discussed in detail about the parts of the Indian Constitution in the previous class, and the questions are being asked from them only. Question first that is being asked in UPPCS mains 2012 and 2008. It talks about the Indian Constitution is divided into how many parts? Now, we have here 16, 24, 22, and 25 parts. We discussed in detail about this part, and I made you understand that we have 22 parts in our Indian Constitution, but at the same time, we added 3 more parts. But that is a part of that 22 parts. It is a sub part of that 22 parts. So originally in Indian Constitution, we have 22 parts only. So answer will be 22 parts. You have to recall what we have read in the previous class. Now the second question, it talks about consider the following subjects and arrange them into sequential order as mentioned in the Constitution. We discussed in detail about the parts of the Indian Constitution. Now you can be able to recall, and then you can yourself make it this answer. You can make this answer. The union and its territory. This is in which part it is? It's part 1. Part 1. Fundamental duties. Citizenship. You remember, citizenship is in part 2 of the Indian Constitution. Fundamental duties. Fundamental duties comes in part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Part 3. Directive principle of state policy, DPSP. DPSP. It is part 4. Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. So, if you know about the parts, you will be able to understand, you will be able to answer the questions which are being asked in the provincial services examination and even in the civil services examination. And if you make your habit, if you read something, some particular topic, try to make as much as question. It will give you boost to your confidence also, and you will be in a better position to learn things also. We will take some other questions also, like, so in that very course, directive principle of state policy. You see, directive principle of a state policy, part 4. So here you see union and its territories, 1 to 4 article, part 1. Citizenship is part 2, 5 to 11. Fundamental right is part 3, that is 12 to 35. Directive principle of state policy, 36 to 51. Fundamental duties is 51. We discussed in detail these all things. Okay. So move to another question. Which one of the following is not matched correctly? Let's see. Which one of the following is not matched correctly? You see this question. I think you can answer this question properly. Which one of the following is not matched correctly? Citizenship, part 2 of the Constitution, is right. We discussed in detail. Article 5 to 11 talks about citizenship. Fundamental right, part 3 of the Constitution. Fundamental duties, part 6 of the Constitution. No. Here, fundamental duty is a subpart of part 4, that is directive principle of state policy, and it will come under, it is not 6A but part 4A of the Indian Constitution. So the wrong will be, this is the wrong. Fundamental duties, it is not matched correctly. UP, the question comes in UP lower preliminary examination 2004. The provisions relating to fundamental duties is not included in part 4A, which was inserted in the Indian Constitution in 1976 through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. You have heard about Swaran Singh Committee also. Swaran Singh Committee. It talks in detail about the fundamental duties. So you see, we made it. We have done all the parts and the questions are coming. And if you remember, if you recall, you will be able to answer the questions. Another question, we look into another question. Which part of our Constitution invices a three-tier system of panchayats? Three-tier system of panchayats. If you remember, we have part 9 talks in detail about the panchayats. Part 9 talks about panchayat. See, and panchayat has been given constitutional status through 73rd. I take another color. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. We have given constitutional status to panchayats, and this has been incorporated in part 9 of the Indian Constitution. And 74th Amendment talks about what it talks about. It talks about municipalities, urban local self-government. Part 9. Part 9, part 10 talks about scheduled areas. We have discussed in detail about these all things. I hope you are able to comprehend. Now, after fourth, we'll go to next question. That is, next question is, which part of the Indian Constitution, which part and chapter of the Indian Constitution deal with legislative relation between the union and the state? It talks about legislative relation. We have uh, we have gone into the discussion of the parts as well as the chapters of the part of the constitution. Here they are asking the chapter also, which part and chapter of the Indian constitution deal with the legislative relation between union and the states. Part 11 talks about the relationship between, you remember, relation between the union and the state. It talks about union and the states, and the legislative relationship between the union and the state. It has been incorporated into chapter 1 of that particular part 11. So the answer will be A, part 11 and chapter 1. You see also part 11 and chapter 2 talks about administrative relationships. At the same time, part 12 deals with finance. You remember? Finance, suits. It deals with these all things: property, contract, and suits. So answer is this. At the same time, at the same time, we will take a different question. Now we'll look into the different question. Let's see. But we have done with this abolition of titles, part 5. I think it's visible to you. I hope it's visible to you. Question 6 talks about, we'll take question 6 talks about match the following. It talks about the lists. It talks about match list 1 with 2 and select the correct answer. Abolition of titles. What the question has done is, it has took out the basics of the parts, like from the fundamental rights directive principles, and they have put the question abolition of titles. If you remember, abolition of titles comes under fundamental rights, article 18. Article 18 talks about abolition of rights, titles. The same way, organization of village panchayat. Village panchayat comes under is Article 40. Article 40 of the Indian Constitution. It comes under directive principle of the state policy to provide the opportunities for education to the child ward between 6 to 14 years of age. We discussed it earlier. It comes under fundamental duties 51A, and the one in 51A is one single article. Previously it was having 10 subjects. Now we have 11 subjects, and this is this particular thing, this particular topic has been brought into fore through constitutional 86th Constitutional Amendment Act, where it has been made a duty to the guardian to provide the opportunities for education to the child and ward between 6 to 14 years of age. The last one, that is India, that is Bharat, is the union of the states. You remember, you recall also that this is a part of the union and its territory. It talks about the union and its territories, and it is in which article this is incorporated? It is in under Article 1. So if you know the parts, you will, and if you know what is there in the parts, you will be able to answer the questions. So here answer is 3142, that is abolition of titles is fundamental right, organization of villages, directive principle of state policy, to provide the opportunities for education is fundamental duties, and India, that is Bharat, is the union of state. It is incorporated from the union and its territories. And part 1 that discuss about this, article 1, it talks about the union and territories. It says India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Moving to another question. Question number 7. Question number 7 talks about which of the following is correctly matched. See, it talks about, here you have to make sure what they are asking correctly matched. Somewhere they will say incorrectly matched. You have to be very clear on this very specificity, because from this specificity, if you miss this, then the answer will be wrong answer. What it says, part 2 of the Constitution, fundamental rights, is it right? Because part 2 talks about what it talks about. It talks about citizenship. If you remember, part 3 discusses about the fundamental rights. Part 4A of the Constitution, it talks about fundamental duties. You remember 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976, Swaran Singh Committee. The same way, part 5 of the Constitution, what it talks about? Part 5 of the Indian Constitution. It is directive principle of the state policy is part 4 of the Indian Constitution. Part 4. Part 5 of the Indian Constitution deals with the union. So, which is correctly matched? That is part 4A of the Constitution, that is fundamental duties. Let's see. Let's move to another question. I hope you people are clear on this, because otherwise, if you are not clear, so you have to get back to the basics. You have to get back to the basic framework of the Indian Constitution, because if you will not be able to understand at this point of time, it's an initiation. You're initiating into the basics of the Indian Constitution. Later on, you have to deal with the complexities of the Indian Constitution. So better at this juncture, you have to be very clear on, try to make it as soon as possible, make it more clear. Now, another question, which one among the following is not correctly matched? Not correctly matched. See, what they are asking, not correctly matched. And they have given the provisions and part of the Constitution. Citizenship part 2 is right. Part 1 talks about the union and its territories, and part 2 talks about citizenship. Union territories is part 7. Do part 7 talks about union territories? No, this is not correctly matched, because part 8 talks about part 8 talks about union territories. You got the point. And the municipalities, part 9A, no. Municipal, because part 9A is right. Municipality, part 9 is divided into 9A and 9B. 9 talks about Panchayati Raj, 9A talks about municipalities, and 9B talks about cooperative societies. So this is right. Elections part 14 is right. So what is wrong? Your answer is union territories part, it lies in part 8, not part 7. Moving to another question. These questions are related to the parts that are being asked in previous years provincial services examination, different provincial services examination. This is in order to give you more, to make you more apt to the particular subjects we are discussing the part, and you have to make very clear on the basic framework of the Indian Constitution. Now we move to another question, that is question number 9. You see, part 9 of the, now we have to match the following. Part 9 of the Indian Constitution, if you remember, you recall it, you recall more faster. Part 9 of the Indian Constitution talks about panchayats. Part 8 of the Indian Constitution talks about union territories. Part 4A of the Indian Constitution, it talks about fundamental duties through 42nd Constitutional Amendment 1976. Swaran Singh committee, you have to remember this. 9A of the Indian Constitution talks about municipalities. We have given we have given constitutional status to the urban local bodies through municipalities. So you have to recall it, and if you if you do more of the previous year questions related to any provincial services or civil services, that will make you more clear on the subjects. Now, this way we take another question. This question 9, and then we have taken all the question. I think we have taken all the questions. We have done with all the questions. Yeah. 14, 15. We take another question also. Part 15. I think you're able to visualize this. It talks about select the correct answer from the code given below. Part 4, part 15 of the Constitution. Part 15 of the Indian Constitution talks about elections. You remember. Part 16 of the Indian Constitution talks about that is special provisions regarding to certain classes. You remember certain classes, Article 330 to 342, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, Anglo-Indians. We have made provisions regarding them. Part 18 of the Indian Constitution, it talks about official languages. We have 22 languages, official languages. So this is all about the parts of the Indian Constitution we have discussed in detail earlier. And now, today we have finished the schedule. We have looked into the previous year part, the questions which are being asked in the part of the Indian Constitution. In the next class, from here onwards, I will take some of the questions which are being asked in different provincial services and civil services regarding or related to the schedule, so that you will be able to understand the questions and the specificity of the schedule. I think today we have done. And one very important thing I have to tell you, or I have to talk to you today, is those people who are appearing on 28th in civil services examination, make yourself cool and calm in the examination. You are not new that you will not able to answer all the questions. Nobody is going to answer all the questions. Whatever you know, you do it with more perfection. थोड़ा सा भी अपने पर दबाव महसूस ना करें आप. क्यों? ये एग्जामिनेशन दबाव को झेलने का ही एग्जामिनेशन है. अगर इफ यू आर एबल टू टेक द प्रेशर, और प्रेशर में आप अगर अच्छा कर लेते हैं, आप अपने दबाव मुक्त रहकर, अगर आप मान लेते हैं 4 क्वेश्चंस ऐसे आपके आ जा रहे हैं, 4 क्वेश्चंस आपके ऐसे आते हैं कि आप उन क्वेश्चंस को नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, अगर 4 consecutive क्वेश्चंस और 4 कॉन्जिक्यूटिव क्वेश्चंस आप नहीं कर पा रहे तो घबराइए नहीं। 4 क्वेश्चन नहीं कर पा रहे, मूव ऑन टू अनदर क्वेश्चंस और उस पे चले जाइए। हमेशा याद रखिए, आपके परेशान होने से, घबराने से सिर्फ क्वेश्चन गलत होगा और रिजल्ट कुछ नहीं होना है उससे। आप घबराइए नहीं, अपने को कूल रखिए, अपने को काम रखिए और बेहतरीन प्रदर्शन देके आइए। जितनी भी, ऐसा नहीं आपने बहुत सारा चीज कर लिया अभी तक में, कोई नया चीज मत करिए। रात में अगर नींद नहीं आती तो उससे भी डरिए मत, तनाव रहता है। और स्टूडेंट अक्सर कैंडिडेट्स जो है रात में सो नहीं पाते हैं इस समय में, क्योंकि एग्जामिनेशन अगला दिन है और बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण एग्जामिनेशन, करो या मरो की स्थिति होती है। तो इसमें बिल्कुल ही ना घबराइए और अपने को कूल कंपोज रखिए। और आप, अगर अपने को कूल कंपोज आप रख लेते हैं 28 मई 2023, आप अपने को कूल और कंपोज रख लेते हैं तो यकीन मानिए जो 2-3 क्वेश्चन गलती होने जा रहे हैं वो गलती उस समय नहीं होंगे। दूसरा बात, ओएमआर जब सीट आप अगर भर रहे हैं, ओएमआर सीट अगर भरते हैं आप एग्जामिनेशन में, ओएमआर अगर भरने जा रहे हैं तो ऐसा कोशिश करिए कि 15 क्वेश्चंस आपने बना लिया, उसके बाद आप ओएमआर सीट भर लीजिए, ओएमआर सीट। क्योंकि अगर आप लास्ट में 10 मिनट के अंदर भरेंगे, जल्दीबाजी में भरेंगे, अगर एक भी ओएमआर सीट में एक पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन का डॉट जो गलत चला जाएगा तो अगला 2-3 कॉन्जिक्यूटिवली गलत चला जाएगा, आप तनाव में आ जाएंगे। तो इस तरह के प्रोसेस आप लेके चले और अपने को कूल रखें, कंपोज रखें। और परीक्षा आइडिया की टीम की तरफ से हम लोग आप लोग को बहुत बहुत बेस्ट विशेस देते हैं कि आप बेहतर प्रदर्शन करके आएं। विथ ऑल दिस वर्ड, ऑल द बेस्ट, थैंक यू।